another educating session with Holistic Edu-Consult. My name is Olubunmi Mercy Odiaka. Today we are talking about a very interesting topic. It's interesting because it's a bit controversial. A lot of people do not understand what it is and they have questions about it. A lot of people have people experiencing it and do not know how to handle them. Some people don't even know how to identify them. So today we are going to be identifying and talking about the management of learning disabilities in children. Pardon my voice, you know, as it is, the weather. But before I go on, I would like to introduce you to my co-hosts today. I have a co-host. Do I need to dance to that? Okay. All right. Welcome my co-host with me. His name is Frank. So I'm just going to call him Frank. Frank, you're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, he's a cool, calm, and collected man. I don't want to use guy. All right. Today we have Teacher Comfort with us. Teacher Comfort is not a stranger when it comes to Holistic Edu-Consult. In fact, I can say she's one of the pioneers. Exactly. So welcome with me, Teacher Comfort Oladipupo.
Hello.
You're welcome, Ma.
Thank you.
Joining us online is Dr. Temitope Levite. He's going to be answering our questions on the medical aspect of learning disabilities. And a lot of questions rolled in today. A lot of questions. But before we go on, can you just say hello to Temitope?
Hi everyone.
Hello.
Yeah. I name and hello Teacher Comfort. It's been a while.
Teacher Comfort is saying hello to you
Hello,
as well.
Doctor.
All right. Okay. So what we're going to do now is that before I go to the questions that you sent to me to ask Teacher Comfort and ask Dr. Temitope, I would like to lay a foundation. Let's know what learning disabilities are. Let's know what they are not. Let's know the types. Let's know which one that are medical conditions and not necessarily learning disabilities. They could be medical conditions that have learning disabilities associated with them, but not necessarily a type of learning disability. I hope I'm communicating. So, Teacher Comfort, quickly, because of our time, what is learning disability?
Well, to get the meaning of learning disability, we need to first find out the meaning of learning.
Yeah.
What is learning? Learning is, I'm going to use a teacher's definition, is a permanent change in behavior. When a change in someone becomes permanent and that is gotten through some experience, either you were taught, either you went through a process, and so learning takes place. So when that experience becomes permanent, that change, then we know that learning has taken place. So let's tie it to disability. Disability is when you are unable to do something. So bringing these two together, it means that learning disability is an inability to learn. Learning takes place in the brain. And so because learning takes place in the brain, it means that some processes go on in the brain for learning to take place. If we say someone has learned something, it means that with a click of an hand, the person can give you an answer to what you want. So a learning disability is an inability for the brain to process, retrieve, or call back information it has gotten before. So some children are like that in the class. You teach them, they responded well, they answered your questions, then you come back. You want to do a recap and the child is blank. The brain is unable to retrieve that information again. So that is what learning disability basically is. Some of the neurons in the brain do not connect. And so there is nothing you do there is nothing you do with the child that will make it connect. Thank you.
I think I picked something.
Okay.
You mentioned 3 words.
Yes.
You said it is the inability to process, to retrieve, and to retain information.
Yes.
Process, retrieve, and retain information. I hope you got that right. Please write it down so that you don't forget. An inability to process, retrieve, and retain information. Okay, so what are the types of learning disabilities? Before I go to doctor, what are the types?
Okay, when we are talking about types, there are general types. Learning disability is actually very, very wide. So we cannot exhaust all the types here. But let's look at the regular ones we find in the classroom. I think the first and most popular learning disability is dyslexia. This is an inability of the child to process information that has to do with letters. The child can't read, the child can't blend. Anything that has to do with letters, the child is off. When you bring a spelling exercise, the child is not interested. When it's time for the child to combine letters to form words, he is lost. In short, in one movie I watched, like Stars on Earth, the boy says the letters are dancing. So dyslexia is an inability of the child to work with letters. Now, another popular one is dyscalculia, and that is a deficit in number sense. Just like dyslexia has to do with reading, dyscalculia has to do with numbers. A deficit in number sense. Children cannot process numbers, and I think a lot of us fall into this category. I want to believe I also fall into that category, because a math problem that is brought before me, that time that you are teaching, I will follow you, and then later you tell me to do some sums and I will just go blank. So that is dyscalculia, inability to process numbers. And then we have the dysgraphia. Dysgraphia is children who find it difficult to do writing, anything that has to do with the hand, and so they have problem with fine motor skills. Children like that will find it difficult to button their shirts, tie their shoelaces, handle fork and knife, because it has to do with the hands, the fingers, using the fingers. So that is dysgraphia. And then we have a motor problem we call dyspraxia, where the child cannot coordinate himself properly. He falls often, things fall off from their hands, they break things, they can't skip ropes. Children like that find it difficult to cross bridges that maybe you just lay a plank, because they are always shaking. So the list goes on and on. I'll talk about one last one, and that is a condition in almost all children with learning disabilities, and that is ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. The child is not able to stay still. The child is impulsive. He is always wanting to move. So these are the general ones that we see in school. Those are some of the general types of learning disabilities.
Wow. Wow. I think you even went deeper. Because you mentioned dysgraphia, dyscalculia, dyslexia,
and dyspraxia.
Then you mentioned ADHD,
yes.
attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Yes. Please let me quickly sound this note. Teachers, please do not tell a nursery child to pay attention for 40 minutes straight, and if that child cannot pay attention for that long, you now say the child has attention deficit disorder. No. No, no, don't attach that to ADHD. Because each age has their level of attention span. So don't say because this child cannot listen for long, the child cannot pay attention for long, then the child has ADHD. Please don't do that. I think maybe you need to say something about that age so that teachers will understand, so that they won't say Teacher Bumi said so I didn't say so. Maybe you should shed more light on that.
Okay. All right. What you're trying to say, what she's trying to say is, when children's attention span is very short, naturally, whether they are learning disabled or not. Besides, you can't even conclude that children in preschool are learning disabled or not, because they are unique in different ways. We can come to those conclusions when the child is already maybe in a grade school from primary 1 upward. But in preschool, you can't really say. So a child that has paid attention for 15 minutes in your lesson is not having ADHD. That is the longest a child can pay attention. 5, 10, 15. For some, at most 20 minutes. So your lesson have extended beyond that, and you are not changing physical and the written activity, and you now say the child is having ADHD. No. A child who cannot stay still for 1 minute, I agree, but not the child who has paid attention for 10 minutes and above.
All right. Okay, I think I'd like to hear Dr. Tokwe now. Dr. Temi, are you there?
Yes, I'm very much here.
Okay,
and
thank you very much.
Thank you, Teacher Comfort. Teacher Comfort.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you have a question.
Okay, I thought you were talking to Teacher Comfort. All right. She has explained what learning disabilities are. I just want you to shed more light on, because a lot of people ask me questions. Some of the questions that was sent in has a lot of autistic, autism. What is the name of that other one again? Okay, when I remember, I'm going to mention it. So, Teacher Comfort mentioned dyspraxia, dyscalculia, dyspraxia, dyslexia. So, which other ones are medical conditions that has learning disability in it, but it is not actually a type of learning disability, like autism that I mentioned now? Maybe you can just mention about 2, 3 so that people can understand what's the difference between these conditions.
So, thank you, Teacher Comfort. He actually did justice to that and has made my job very easy. All right, so I'll just go straight to it. I think what you're asking me would be the common causes or the medical causes of learning disorders, if I'm correct. So, but
I said, like
Can you hear me?
autism.
Okay.
Is it a learning disability? Is it a type of learning disability? Some other medical conditions that people liken to learning disability. Yes, they may have learning disability in them, but it is not a type of learning disability. So I want you to mention about 2 or 3. I can't really remember some of them now, but I can remember autism.
Okay, straight up. So, can you hear me very well?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, great. So, apart from autism, in fact, we call it autism spectrum disorder, okay, ASD. And apart from that, Teacher Comfort already mentioned ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Then we also have cerebral palsy, okay. All of these are not in themselves learning disabilities, okay. Some other medical conditions which are infectious now. This one is infectious, I mean, meningitis, or a child that has had cerebral malaria, or a child that has had febrile convulsion. Okay, that's actually common amongst children between the ages of 6 months and 5 years. Okay, or there's only or an epileptic child. Okay, so all of that are not in themselves learning disorders. However, children who have these conditions, or a child that had head injury, okay, early childhood, head injury in early childhood, all of that can predispose. All of these conditions I've mentioned can predispose children to learning disorders. They are not in themselves learning disorders. I hope you understand, like dyslexia, like dysgraphia, and all the this that Teacher Comfort mentioned. So they are not in themselves all of that. However, they predispose children who have been through these conditions, meningitis, cerebral palsy, ADHD, ASD, febrile convulsion, cerebral malaria, I mean, epileptic children, you understand? So all of those can predispose children to learning disorders. They are not in themselves learning disorders.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for that. Okay, before I allow Frank ask his question. There's a question for you online. Someone says, how do I know if a child is autistic? Because I have a child in my class. He's going to be 3 years soon. He doesn't respond when you talk to him. He likes covering his hairs, and he doesn't socialize well. How can I help him learn? I think Teacher Comfort will answer the how you can learn, but I think you need to explain to this person how will she be able to know if this child is autistic? The child is 3, he doesn't talk, he doesn't respond, he covers his hairs, like when a child tells you you're shouting too much, he doesn't socialize well. Is he autistic?
All right, let's be very practical with this. So to this woman, I want to say, before you think too far, let's start from the basic things, okay? And let's start from the common things to uncommon things, all right? Not every child is autistic, okay? But we have a lot of children who have temperaments that can match what she's describing. So the child might be, this child might just be an introvert. Let's start with that. I have not said she is. I'm just saying that we must pick things from the common things to the uncommon things. So this child might just be an introvert. A lot of children have very high energy. They are running up and down. They are talking. They are everywhere. They are very active in class. Some don't have that energy, and it doesn't mean that they have any medical condition or they have any disorder, as it were. Okay, so let's be sure that this child is not, the mother is not being overactive, or mother is not just worrying that my child is not as active and as as playful as I want, as involved as I want, and all of that. As maybe the child is not chitty chatty. Children want their children to talk back at them. You want your child, especially when the child starts talking, you want the child to communicate. You say dada, you want her to say dada. All right, you just want to get some form of reaction from the child. Not that the child is not reacting, at least from what you just told me. It's not like this child is not communicating at all, but this woman feels like a child is socially awkward. However, when it comes to autism spectrum disorder, yes, what she described too can fit. Okay, like I said, we must start from the common things. So they usually have social interaction issues. Okay, they have issues with communication. They are restricted, and they are restricted in their behavior, and they are always involved in repeating things. Like they have repetitive behaviors too. They can stay on a spot and do the same thing for hours. And no matter how much you shout at them or try to get their attention is fixed, it's undivided. Okay, so they can be like that. So the only way to know this is to see a doctor or other health professionals. But being in Nigeria, if this person is in Nigeria, please see a doctor. All right, and make sure you are seeing a doctor, because these days it's very hard to differentiate. So please make sure you are seeing a doctor. Go to a hospital, proper hospital, see a doctor, and lay these complaints. Preferably go to a teaching hospital where you can see a pediatrician. It would come very easy for such cadre of professionals in the health industry.
So much.
I hope I've answered the question.
Thank you very much. So you heard that. You asked that question. You had the answer. He said, see a doctor. And he said, make sure you're seeing a doctor. Please pay attention to that. Make sure you're seeing a doctor. All right. So Teacher Comfort, what do you think? The second part of that question goes to you. That how do you help such a child learn? Because the first thing I asked this person, because I had to ask so that I know what the question is really, I had to ask that, is the school a special school? She said no. So I said, okay, if it's not a special school, then I'm going to ask you. Doctor already said, see a doctor so you can be sure it is autism. so that you don't just say it's autism when it is not. So how do you help such child learn? Because I know a lot of autistic
Children
people
in regular
who,
school.
yes.
It's okay. This is a cause for concern for a lot of teachers when they're not being able to get through to a child. The bitter truth is learning disabilities do not have a cure. Because it doesn't have a cure does not mean that the child cannot be successful either in school or later in life. I think the best way to help children that are learning disabled is to help them to be the best they can be without undignifying them. Because most of them have cognitive issues, and that is why they may be having problems with maths, with English. Some of them have all the types of learning disability I've mentioned combined. It doesn't mean that they cannot be successful, because the wiring of the brain is such that if one part is not, if one neuron is not connected and is not learning, another one can be learning. I'll give an example. We have 3 types of learners in every classroom. We have the visual learners, the auditory learners, and the kinesthetic learners. Now, if you arrange your classes, you plan your lessons in a way that you bring these 3 learners to play, even a child that is learning disabled will learn, because if the neurons connecting the eye is not functioning very well, the ones connecting the ear will be functioning, or the one connecting the sense of touch will be functioning. So vary your lessons. Do not stay in one place. And children like that thrive on repetition. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again, the connection that was weak will start getting stronger. But you need loads and loads of patience and love to help such a child.
I hope you got that. I hope you got that. I won't be able to go over what she said again because of time. So let's have Frank ask his question. I think he has a question for you.
Okay.
Alright, so prior to this knowledge, I must say I've had just surface knowledge on what learning disability is all about, but from now I can say I'm very much enlightened. So I have this question I would like to ask Teacher Comfort. How exactly can we diagnose learning disability in a child?
Okay, that's a very good one. How do we diagnose? Well, we are not special. I'm not a special education teacher. I'm just a regular teacher, but I try to do research into everything that can make my learners succeed, and that is why I can do this right now on learning disability. Because I am not a special education teacher, I may not be able to give you very precise answers. But there are some things we see generally. One, the child is not able to process information. I'll give an example. A child is 6 and is struggling with his letters and numbers. The teacher succeeded in helping the child get to number 5. And then she points at number 3 and asks the child, what number is this? The child looks at the number and the child just puts out letter B, sound B. There is no connection between the letter and the number they are asking her to say what is happening. The child cannot process that information. The child cannot retrieve the fact that he has learned that before. And the child did not retain that information when it was being taught. So, these are some of the things that will help you. Then there are reversals. You see, children with learning disability, though all children fall into this category at a point, but they get over it very quickly. That is between 17 and 71. The child gets confused. The child cannot use the analog clock. The child will say things like, the long hand is in 10, the short one is in 5, the tiny one is not staying in one place. That's because they cannot tell you the time. So they have some weird ways of solving problems. They will get to the root of the problem. These children are not dumb, please. Children with learning disabilities are not dumb. Research even shows that most of them have average or above average intelligence. It's just that they process their own information in different ways. They are not just thinking outside the box. They are kicking the box away and coming up with their own ideas. So you can identify children with learning disability to is some of the ways they react when they need to give back information that have been given to them before. Another thing with children with learning disability, because they can't retain information, they are very forgetful. So you tell them, go and give me a pencil, an eraser, and a sharpener. The child will go and come back and ask you because he has forgotten. It doesn't keep the information. So for children like that, we give them one-step information at a time.
Okay, thank you so much. So I think that's very clear. One of the things I took is that they don't retain information easily. So the next question I have here is, when it comes to learning disabilities, are they genetic?
Yes. Doing research on this, I have come across some sites that says that nobody knows the cause of learning disabilities. But there are likely causes of learning disability. It could be hereditary. That's where being genetic comes in. It could be hereditary. It could be caused by delay in labor. Some women labor stay for a prolonged period of time. Issues with oxygen. Maybe immediately they gave birth to the child was not able to breathe by himself and it took some time. That could cause it. Age of the mother. Either the mother is too young or the mother is too old to bear a child. So these are some of the causes. Then injury to the head, prolonged illness in childhood. These are some of the likely causes of learning disabilities.
Okay. Thank you so much. So,
all right, sir.
Okay.
Dr. Timmy, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, I think I want you to answer that question. As a medical doctor, I think you have a definite answer to that. Do you?
Yeah, yes. So
okay,
talking
so
about
what
genetics.
Are the causes of learning disability? Is it genetic? Is it hereditary?
All right. So before I answer that question, so that I can be robust, I want to say one or two things about learning disabilities. Is that okay?
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So the point is, I think we might be going on the extreme when it regards, as regards this learning disability issue. And the reason why I'm saying that is because not every child that has learning disabilities might have a problem with certain things in life. So, for example, learning disabilities in intensities is in different intensities and it's different for everyone. So, while somebody has issues with mathematics, okay, dyscalculia, it might not have issues with reading, all right, or writing and all of that. So, some people with LD can actually have healthy relationships. They can live alone, okay? They can get qualifications, while others can pull that off. I'm just saying that it's in degrees, okay? We have had, okay, so you know stories of people, maybe in primary school or in secondary school here in Nigeria, where they were told they can't amount to anything. They are of no use, okay? We've had stories like that. Okay, a teacher is telling a child directly that, okay, because you are not catching up fast, because you are not a fast learner, or you are not doing well, maybe in mathematics or in English, or generally, they are termed to be, like, okay, there's nothing good coming out of this person. All right. So I really just want to clarify that learning disabilities is different. Learning disability is actually different for everyone, and it's in different intensities in everyone. Okay, so there's something called multiple learning disabilities. All right, there's actually something like that. I think it's called if I can remember now, profound and multiple learning disability. Yeah, that's what it's called. It actually just means that, okay, this person doesn't just have only one issue, all right? They need support in almost all the areas of their lives. They can't eat well, they have issues with washing, they cannot groom themselves personally, like issues of personal care, like having their bath or cleaning or every of those things, okay? So that's like a profound, and it's multiple, a profound learning disability, and it is multiple, all right? It's different from just only one. And like I said, if we understand this, then we can understand the causes, that the causes are different, okay? The reason is not always known, like Teacher Comfort mentioned the other time. And of course, she also mentioned the issue of brain abnormalities, brain development abnormalities, okay? Some people just have issues with developments during pregnancy. And then talking about causes, I just want to mention on maternal issues, okay? Issues that has to do with the mother of this child, okay? So it could be during pregnancy, it could be before pregnancy, during pregnancy, and after childbirth, okay? So maternal habits during pregnancy, for example, there are certain medications that the mother can take that can predispose this child to brain damage or developmental abnormalities that can then predispose this child to learning disorders, okay? Medications, there's a particular medication that was everywhere at some point, they call it thalidomide, okay? A mother that smokes during pregnancy or even after childbirth, okay, can predispose this child to asthma, for example. And then let's not forget that while we talk about learning disability, I wanted to mention a gray area that we're not probably paying attention to. That while we are talking about, okay, children who have dyscalculia, dyslexia, dysgraphia, and all the likes, there are certain children who didn't start out that way, but eventually they become like that. Okay, so this child might fall into, this child who has a mother who smokes regularly can fall into that category, okay? Not because it's not like he's not doing well in school and all of that, but he's always admitted in the hospital, okay? He's always having asthmatic attack, okay? Not because he's naturally, it happened naturally, but of course, smoking exposure to that smoke every now and then can actually predispose a child to being asthmatic, all right? So that's smoking, a mother that takes alcohol, herbal concussion, and all the likes. You know, we have a lot of traditional birth attendants around here, and people actually patronize them a lot. Okay, and that's even if the child was not, has not been, when the pregnancy has not been terminated before even giving birth to the child. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So, people take a lot of things during pregnancy that can actually put the life of the child in danger during the pregnancy, or put the life of the child, cause a lot of abnormalities that we can see in the child after childbirth. Okay, that's during pregnancy. Then after childbirth or during childbirth, Teacher Comfort actually mentioned something. So we call it hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy. Okay, so don't worry about that. It actually just means what she said about oxygen not being enough. There's not enough oxygen supply to the brain. Now, I would have to mention this because this happens a lot in this part of the world. You have been advised by your doctor that, okay, your wife cannot push. Maybe she doesn't have adequate pelvis, or for some reasons, or the child's head is too big, or the size of the child is too big, or for some other reasons. Medical reasons has come together. They've come together and they've said, okay, this is what you cannot do. Let us go on with a cesarean section. And then, because you have made, don't mind me, I'm going to say this. So because, like you tell us in hospitals, because you have made a covenant with your God to be one of those Hebrew women, all right, you decide that you're not going to go ahead with a cesarean section. And then eventually you push, you cause obstructed labor, you are there for hours, probably days, and you put the life of the child in danger, and then we start resuscitating. Immediately we start resuscitating such a child, because the first minute of life, we expect the child to actually cry, sneeze, or give some form of reaction that shows, okay, there's life in this child, and breathe. We expect a pink child and all of that, and then all of that is not happening. We have to start resuscitation. So we've had to resuscitate children for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, but we know, okay, medics know this, that the outcome might not be favorable. I mean, one of the issues that may arise are these issues of learning disabilities. Okay, the child might not, I mean, you have a child that is totally, probably, the child grows up, of course, child is eating and all of that, but even the process of growth is slow, all right. We call that failure to thrive. Okay, so it's not just only about learning disabilities this time, but the child can have a lot of things: delayed growth, learning disabilities, a lot of medical conditions. I mean, that's the parents might have to spend and spend and spend on for the rest of their lives. So what I'm saying is, this issue can be before birth, before pregnancy, during pregnancy, and after pregnancy. Other issues that I may want to point to might be, congenital issues. Congenital just means that, okay, it's a problem that occurs during development of a child in pregnancy. I think I mentioned that too before. And then I've mentioned the issue of certain conditions, health conditions like meningitis, cerebral convulsion, head injury in childhood, cerebral malaria, and so on like that. So you see that your child is hot, let me say it that way, there's fever. Don't just go and buy Bonababe. Okay, like people always come around and say, I've given this child Bonababe. Bonababe just contains paracetamol. Paracetamol, yes, might work for the fever, but you might not have addressed the cause of fever in this child. So if this child has meningitis, for example, and you let it linger for long before you present in the hospital, you might be setting your child up for some form of disability in the future. All right, so I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you very much. In fact, that was elaborate, and I'm sure you heard what Doctor said. Because of time, let me quickly ask this question. Teacher Comfort, this is to you.
Okay.
There is a 3-year-old child. He knows all that is expected to know, but he knows all he is expected to know for his age, but I think I need to rephrase this question. Okay, there is a 3-year-old child. He knows all he is expected to know for his age and class, but he doesn't like to write. How can I help as a teacher? Then I asked the person, he doesn't like to write or he doesn't know how to write? She said, he doesn't like to write. How can I help as a child? A 3-year-old man. Okay. A 3-year-old. Go ahead.
Okay. First, we need to know what we even want the children to do in early childhood. That is still very young for you to want him to write as much as I am believing you want him to. In preschool in Nigeria, among the 8 objectives, only one talks about teaching rudiments of letters, numbers, forms, shapes, color through play. I believe that for his level and what the child can write, a lot of motivation, a lot of hands-on activities, pre-writing activities that will prepare the hand of the child. You see, most times the fine motor skills are not properly groomed. And when these skills are not properly groomed, the hand is not flexible enough. We know that it's the brain that connects everything that the body does. So if the hands are not groomed enough for that to work, the child may not like writing, even if he can write, because it won't be comfortable for him. But for a 3-year-old who can do everything, maybe he's meeting all his milestones. I don't think writing is one of the milestones for a 3-year-old, even in his cognitive domain. So please, allow the child, let the child relax. Writing is not a criteria at that age.
I hope you got that. So I had to go and dig out one of my videos, because I know I mentioned the nursery scheme. What should happen in nursery school? That is the Nigerian curriculum. And I don't need to mention that again. Please go and watch the video. Just search on Facebook after this session. Search on Facebook for teaching and teachers. Teaching and teachers. That was the topic. Teaching and teachers. Then there you would find what a 3-year-old should be doing. Please stop forcing them to write. Stop it. Should I do as some influencers do? Stop it! Okay, this is a very long question. A very long one.
Is it also to me?
Yes, to you.
Okay.
How can I help my son to enjoy writing? As he just started writing few months ago, but really difficult on my part to engage him. As I observe, he likes to do things his own way, and he has got zero or little tolerance for focusing on how I am helping him to write, even though he started writing miraculously. I also believe he can do better and improve. He just wants everything to be at his own pace. Knowing that he has a little delay in his speech, he just started talking this year a little clearly too. And I also observed lately that his understanding has greatly improved, but I am more concerned about his reading. I am praying that someday he will start to read, but what can I do to help? He has a lot of reading books, but when I try to engage him, he just enjoys looking at the pictures and gets tired of reading along with me at some point. And before you know it, he will just leave me there and go do his own business. He is 5 years old and he is in nursery too.
Okay, I think you have mentioned two concerns here. One is reading and the other is writing. If I understand you clearly, I believe that this child has been delayed for longer than he should. And you have mentioned that he has met some milestones miraculously. I think you need to applaud him at that point, that he's now able to do some things by himself without anybody pushing him to do it. You see, a child who is delayed would like to go at his pace. I always give this example each time I have the opportunity to talk to teachers. I have two boys. My first boy started reading in JS2, and my second boy started reading at the age of 2. Now, both of them come from the same womb. It means that while the first one was seriously dyslexic, he still read, but at a much later time. While the second one does not have this particular type of learning disability, he started reading very, very early. So, give him time. Be patient. It is obvious that the boy has ADHD or attention deficit disorder. So it means that you need to be monitoring the time you use with him. If his attention is just 5 minutes, after 5 minutes stop reading, engage him in something else. Gradually he will come to love reading and read things that will excite him. He's your son. You know him better than any other person. Bring out stories that will excite him. First, let him even enjoy the fact that he can get pleasure from reading. If he does that at very short spans, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, you might spur on his love for reading. Remember what we said earlier, learning disabilities do not have a cure, but the child can still succeed.
Thank you so much. I think you need to go and watch a video I did on dealing with challenging behaviors in children. I have addressed this issue. Actually, I wouldn't want to push aside your questions. That was why I decided to ask again. I have addressed these issues. When you are trying to engage a child, if it is for 5 minutes, like Teacher Comfort said, focus on what you are teaching him. Don't begin to beat around the bush in that 5 minutes. Yes. You don't have the time. You have that 5 minutes to make sure you engage that child. So use that 5 minutes judiciously. Use it well. Make sure you after that 5 minutes, leave him to do whatever he wants. Then he likes to check pictures, likes to look at the pictures. Let him look at the pictures. Let him look at it. What if he has a flair for arts? Come on, let it. Looking at the pictures should even tell you that he's a visual learner. Yes, he likes visuals. So such children may not really pay attention when you're trying to make them write on the board or you're writing on the board. Such children would prefer that you play a video, and from that video that they watch, they will analyze everything they have watched. You'll be surprised. So just pay attention to this child and applaud him whenever he does well. Applaud him. He's doing well. As far as I'm concerned, he's doing well. Okay, I think we have to wrap up here. Dr. Temi, thank you so much for being here. I really want to say thank you on behalf of Autistic Edu-Consult, and I'm sure Frank also has something to say to you, just to say thank you to you. Hello, Frank.
Yes, Dr. Temi, I'm really glad that you joined us today, and I must say I learned so much from what you said. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to say thank you to Teacher Comfort as well. Thank you so much for joining us all the time. Let me not say today, because it has become all the time. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
In closing, I would like to mention something, and that is I want to mention some people that actually had learning disabilities and they amount to somebody in life, so that you will know that the fact that your child has any of these learning disabilities does not mean they cannot do well. I wrote it somewhere here. Okay, there is one person. In fact, why do I need to mention them? Go on Google. Let me give you that assignment. Go on Google. Go and check. Just type it there. People with autism or people with learning disabilities that turned out great. Then you will see their names there. You see their names there. There's a particular boy I saw on America's Got Talent. I'm so sorry I'm going there because I watch movies. I watch intelligent movies, actually. In fact, when I'm watching movies, I don't watch movies for the fun of it. I watch it as if I'm writing an exam on it. And people that watch movies with me, they get tired of watching with me because I keep going back and going back. I just tell them, please, go back a little. Like 3 minutes. I'm trying to get something out of it. And I saw a boy on America's Got Talent. His name is Cody Lee. You can go and type in his name on Facebook or on Google. Kodilee. He's autistic, but he plays the keyboard and he sings so well. If you hear his voice, you will not believe somebody who is autistic can do this. So that is why I'm telling you now that if your child has learning disability, that child can turn out great in life, just like any other child. Like if you check my posts this week, I said disability. I cancelled that dis and told you ability. You are able. Every child is able. Because your child cannot understand mathematics does not mean your child cannot do excellently well in English or any other subject. So please focus on your child's strength and don't compare them to other children. Stop saying that is your mate. He's already writing from 1 to 2,000. Please let him write from 1 to 20 that he can write and help him improve at his own pace. Please stop comparing them. Then watch this movie like Stars on Earth. You will understand this learning disability a little more if you watch that movie, like Stars on Earth. And then there's one I'm watching now. I'm sorry. This one is also on learning disability. It's The Good Doctor. The Good Doctor. It's on Netflix. Watch it. Am I advertising for Netflix? Netflix needs to pay me. The Good Doctor. Watch that movie. You will see the Good Doctor is autistic. But the truth is, he's very, 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 very good. Even those that are not autistic, those that are not learning disabled, they learn from what he says. So a child who is learning disabled can turn out great in life. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you pick 1 or 2 things. I hope you're able to learn as much as possible. Remember, I tell you all the time, learning is not enough. You have to put to use. Because whatever you do not use, you will lose. So put them to use. And I will see you another time. Thank you so much. God bless you. Bye.